welcome back to way number, what are we at? Way number 11, as we were here on Monday, April 11th, for 30 ways you can get started in real estate investing. Now, yesterday's video, if you didn't catch that, dealt more with turnkey properties, which can be one of the easiest ways to get involved in real estate, basically working with a company, maybe through Norada Real Estate, Mid-South Home Buyers, Freedom Real Estate, Spartan Invest, just to name a couple, where they buy the property, they rehab it, get it rent ready, put a tenant in there, handle all the management, the lease ups, etc. And then you are essentially a passive investor. You just have to actually purchase the property, obviously, sign some documents, and I won't just say sit back and relax and collect the money. Nothing's ever going to go wrong or happen, but it is very, very passive. You're not involved in the day-to-day management of those activities. So we're going to take a little bit of a shift this week, going into other realms of ways to get involved in real estate investing. And this kind of still goes along the line with turnkey, but we're going to actually go for ag, or short for agriculture. Now, maybe many of you have, maybe some of you are farmers too, but maybe you've driven by, a field and seen, wheat or corn or soybeans or almonds, bananas, limes, lemons, whatever food or produce you might see growing on various parcels of land, depending on where you may live. And maybe you thought, well, gosh, food is one of those necessities. We all need to eat. The world population continues to grow. And as far as land goes, they're not making any more of it anytime soon, with some exceptions of some island building in United Arab Emirates, Dubai, and maybe if a volcano erupts in the Atlantic or Pacific and creates a new island. Generally speaking, there's no more new land being developed, no more land getting on the market, and much of the land out there might be getting rezoned. Maybe an apartment building is getting put up, maybe a new shopping mall or Walmart or Supercenter or something along those lines. So agriculture is one of those things that I think is always going to be in demand. Now, you might be looking at this, well, gosh, I've seen what land prices are, especially here in the United States. And, I don't know the first thing about farming, would I go for corn or would I go for soybeans? How would I manage it? Gosh, don't I need to get a combine and, purchase all this equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And you certainly can do that. However, if you're don't know much about farming like me, even though I'm here in Minnesota with farm country here in the Southwest, and maybe your funds are a little more limited. You don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital to purchase farmland to, grow soybeans or other crops on it. You can essentially go into agriculture through a turnkey provider. Now, how does this work? So I'm just going to list two that I've personally worked with and purchased through, and you can find these on my website on the investing options. I'll start with the last one I just did. Paraguay Ag Invest. All right, so what does this entail? So as you can probably gather from the name, this entity, or where the crops are grown, is in Paraguay. Obviously, it's agriculture, and invest is an investment opportunity for non-accredited investors. I just want to reiterate that. Unfortunately, a lot of opportunities out there are only for accredited investors. But for Paraguay Ag Invest, they actually have two specific farmland operations you can buy into. So I'll just go with what I did for my example. Is I bought, we're going to say this is an acre. I bought a half-acre parcel of a citrus farm operation in Paraguay. So basically, this means this half-acre parcel in Paraguay is fully deeded and titled in your name, or if you want to do it in a trust or LLC, or maybe even a specialized trust, solo 401k, or self-directed IRA. You can certainly do that if you wish. But essentially, this half-acre parcel has citrus trees, or oranges, as they're more commonly known. If you've been around any amount of time, oranges is pretty popular fruit. Can be a little bit more disease and rot resistance than some other fruits and vegetables. I can attest to this when I worked at Hy-Vee in the produce department, where we could get boxes of oranges and they might be in the cooler for months on end, and shouldn't say months on end, but number of months, and bring them out, put them on display, and they were still good. It wasn't like, oh, strawberries or berries that would break down very quickly, or lettuce, or cabbage, or some of the other ones that are more susceptible to degradation and rotting very quickly versus some citrus fruits. So in this case, through Paraguay Ag Invest, there's a half-acre parcel, and there's just some citrus trees. And similar to the turnkey aspect that we talked about with residential real estate, when you purchase one of these parcels, whether it's a half acre, an acre, or you can get several acres if you wish, those funds are actually also going towards the land, the initial putting of the trees, and then also the management, the pruning, the harvesting of those later on. So the company Paraguay Ag Invest, they work with local farmers, obviously pay them to harvest the trees, keep them up to date, water them if need be, fertilize, et cetera, et cetera. And when you start this investment, it'll usually be a couple of years before you see a return. The orange trees take a while to get fully developed and start producing oranges, but usually around year 3, they will start doing an annual harvest. And then with that annual harvest, then the profits are split with you, the investor, as well as the provider. So it's say very similar to the turnkey operation where they charge a management fee. If they collect $1,000 in rent, $100 would go towards the management fee, or 10% of that, 900 would still go to you to cover all your expenses. Now, depending on the operation, and I'm talking holistically here with a lot of these agricultural turnkey property or turnkey companies, typically the proceeds are split roughly, I'd say 50-50, 60-40, somewhere in that line. And then you receive the portion of the proceeds of the annual harvest, and that just gets deposited into your bank account once a year. Again, like I said, very passive, very hands-off. I don't have to fly to Paraguay, obviously, to pick the oranges, pack them, ship them in other area to other areas. Now, this is just one of the opportunities that Paraguay Ag Invest offers. They have started getting into strawberry production as well. I myself have not had any experience with that. Like I said, I think there's a little bit more risk, I think, with some berries, even though there's a big demand. Obviously, you got to worry about spoilage and degradation of the fruits. Can happen a lot more quickly than with citrus. However, one thing I will say with Paraguay Ag Invest, especially why they picked to invest in Paraguay, is that there was such a huge market for oranges that very little of the oranges would actually be exported out of the country. There was such a demand in the country right there. So obviously, if you're getting into supply chain management, the shorter you can cut those lines down. You might have heard the term farm to table, where a locally grown farmer will produce something and sell it to a local restaurant, and they serve it right there, versus having it, packed up, shipped on a cargo ship to, wherever, the United States, Canada, across the oceans, etc. So Paraguay Ag Invest is one of the options I've personally invested with. I just bought my first parcel earlier this year. Now, there's a couple other options out there, but there are many different, shall we say, avenues that you can get passive income, essentially through a turnkey provider. Another one that I invested in was a teak farm with teak woods through ECI Development. Pretty low barrier to entry. You can start, I think, as low as about $7,000. I should probably back up. The Paraguay Ag Invest was about $19,000, I think, before everything was said and done. But teak parcels is another option that you can look at. Obviously, a lot longer harvest cycle. It's probably going to be at least 7 years before you see any kind of return. So it is very much a long-term investment. Like I mentioned with Paraguay Ag Invest, they did citrus, strawberries, Now, there's a couple other operations. Now, full disclosure, I have not invested with them. I have not yet done full due diligence on them, but there are other ones that will do limes, coconuts, tomatoes, which are getting more and more popular in Asia. Tomatoes are actually getting interesting where they're utilizing new farming techniques, hydroponics, where essentially instead of having to worry about soil and planting the crops are actually planted vertically in greenhouses where it's essentially jars of water that they grow in. And it's called hydroponic farming. Can stack these jars up vertically. So you can essentially kind of have, if you think about it, like a field or a acre that crops are growing in, and you just have numerous fields stacked on top of each other. So you can basically have more farmland operations in a smaller space than you can do with, say, corn or soybeans that are growing in a field. Also, about 2 years ago, I also invested in a parcel of a coffee farm in Panama through International Coffee Farms, or Agronostis is the main company, or top end company. I guess you want to say headquarters, overarching company. You can also do cacao or chocolates. Same company actually has a number of plantations, many times offered through a syndication. We covered that in an earlier video, that you don't necessarily own the land per se, but you are entitled to a share of the profits from the crops. Interesting thing about coffee, and this is one of the main reasons that I invested in it, coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world, right after oil. So I don't want to say there's anything necessarily recession proof, but I would say coffee is definitely recession resistant, so to speak. So these are just a few of the options that you can get involved in with a turnkey operation that focuses on agriculture, or, like I said, teak, limes, coconuts, tomatoes, citrus, coffee, cacao, or any of the other variants. Dragon fruit's becoming a little more popular. Little peppers, there's several out there. This is just kind of a general overview of all the options. Like I said, myself personally, I have invested in a coffee parcel in Panama with International Coffee Farms. I do have a parcel of a teak farm in Nicaragua through ECI Development. And the most recent one I did was a half-acre citrus farm with Paraguay Ag Invest, that obviously, as the name implies, is down in Paraguay. So again, this is just another option or a way that you may not have known about to get involved in real estate investing. Stay tuned for video number 12 as we come back to you on Tuesday, April 12th. Take care.